Well, I hope I'm live. If I am, good morning, everybody. Welcome to YouTube Live Coffee Chat with the amazing and talented and wonderful Irishman called Richie Allen. How are you all doing today? Can you all um, give me a thumbs up that you can hear me and that we are live on YouTube? A yes would be great. Of course, I've come on a bit early. So we're about 10 minutes early, which is great. It gives me a chance to see if everything's running properly. I had some great help from Neil, who came the other week when we did a live with Richie. And that went really, really well. So I invited him back on again for an update. Obviously, a lot of you guys are just like me, filled with anticipation when the show starts again, relaunches, because of the technical difficulties. So that was something that I thought if I can get him on, we can ask him how's things going, just to get an up-to-date perspective of what's going on from his end, and see how we can move forward from there, how we can help him in any way if he needs our help. So yeah, it's a beautiful morning. Looking outside across the Costa del Sol ocean. Funnily enough, a video popped up yesterday of Piers Morgan. I struggle with that guy, but he's talented, no doubt. And he did a video on the Costa del Sol, one of the many documentaries he did traveling the world. And it's known as the Costa del Crime, actually. And it always has been, because so many people around the world come here, whether it's Russians or the English old gangsters, which were the train robbers, Ronnie Briggs, and all of those folk who came here in exile. And to this day, it still continues. There's many mafiosos from all over the world, because Morocco's just across. You can actually see Morocco on a good day, and it's only half an hour across to Morocco, so Africa. So you imagine the drug supplies back and forth. It's huge here. Not that I know much about the drug world, but I did over the past 20 years give healings and psychic readings to some of the top Russian gangsters, who were very pleasant, and they keep themselves to themselves. I've got some great stories of how, look, it's their life, it's what they do. Don't interfere with their life, and they don't interfere with anybody else. They're not common criminals per se that would rob your grandmother. So that was a really interesting few years. The hardest thing was when you're a reader, when you're reading for somebody who's taken a lot of lives, to try and bring spirituality into their soul and spirit in a way that they change their life. And I find it interesting, because in every walk of life, it doesn't matter what the person does for a full-time job, whether they're a criminal working in the government, or whether they're somebody who is a gangster who owns a corporation, or whether you're a drug dealer. All of these people, as well as famous actors, singers, human beings getting on with their life, cooks, cleaners, whatever. There's something profound about giving a reading and a healing session, because at the end of it, you touch their soul, their consciousness. And I always find that in that moment, there's a release of truth. And the truth is, they want to make a difference and help. And they've been so subjected to brainwashed, mind washed control, that their life just took them where it did. And being a reader, you've got to sit on the fence. You can't be judgmental, because what you're trying to do is you're trying to touch their soul so their soul reawakens. And a lot of these people that came for sessions changed their life, changed their path, and they started helping. And you've seen this over the years. You've seen famous people who were terrible, terrible people, but changed their life for whether it's God or whether it's just to make a difference in the world. And that's what fascinated me. That fascinated me. And I used to read and heal for people who had addictions, and there's so many addictions. It could be addiction of alcohol, addiction of drugs, addiction of children. And it's easy to judge. It's easy to say, you touch a child and, this, that, and the other, and throw him in prison. But if you can stand back and heal and help and open somebody up, that they never touch another drink, never touch another child again. I'm on a detox. Sorry, guys. I'm on a full detox. I'm drinking Parasite Cleanse. I'm on over day 80, and it's still coming out. It's still, imagine how many years of poisons that I put into my system that I believe was correct into this. Anyway, going back to finalize on that point, you take a man who's addicted to children, you incarcerate him and let him out again to continue doing the same, if not more, if not worse. So I was judged many times by people saying, what, you mean you gave sympathy to a man who touches children? No, it's not sympathy. It's trying to get inside that person and awaken the consciousness to realize that what they were programmed as a child and abused by their father or uncle or a mentor who raped and abused them, to realize that that's not the way forward, and to go into the soul and spirit and to change that. And I had great success with priests, many priests, Buddhists. I could write a book about how many people changed their way, because if you can tap into that, you can clear that addiction away, which is sometimes deep trauma that is repeated. So a lot of the times you'll find that if a father dies of, let's say, oh, Richie's here. Right. How do we get Richie on? Add to stream. Yes.
There we are.
Hi, Richie. Welcome.
The miracles of technology. Isn't it wonderful?
Yeah, it's nice to have you back, Richie. I was just telling everybody who's here today, and it's a strange time because 11 o'clock, a lot of people are asleep now in USA, and 90% of my friends are from the USA. So we'll have maybe 10% here, but they'll watch the rerun of this, which is great. So for all you guys, I just want to say, first of all, Richie, before I introduce you, the last time we did the live, a lot of people didn't even know who you were. Surprise, surprise. Oh my God, are you serious? You don't know Richie? Are you kidding?
Nothing surprising about that. It's a big old world, big old internet.
Where have you been for the past 2 years? So I think it's always a good thing to introduce you, which I didn't do last time because I'm just like, let's have a coffee, let's have a chat. People will figure it out. But for those who are watching now and who don't know who Richie is, I give you a brief idea of when I first met Richie, when I listened to a radio show. It was of a man who allows the real people of this world, you and I, the people who get up in the morning, who experience life, he allows these people onto his show to tell their story, which the lamestream media that are simply propaganda benders of truth, they don't allow them on. So there's nowhere really, there's only a handful of souls in this world who will allow people to come onto the show. And mainstream media allows you 3 or 4 minutes, 2 minutes, 1 minute, 30 seconds. Whereas this show was a show where Richie allows human beings on to actually speak for an hour. And it opened me up to understanding and seeing and feeling things that I already knew as a healer with my clients, that you can't get a story out of somebody in 30 seconds. You've got to listen deep into what's going on. You've got to look at the beginning, the middle, and the end to make your observations, your not judgments per se, but your opinions and your thoughts and your feelings, which I think this show, Richie Allen Radio Show, allows many people to see life in a way that is not shown to us by propaganda and the agenda benders of the lamestream media. Would you say that's correct, Richie?
Pretty much most issues that are discussed anywhere, whether it's in a kitchen, whether it's in a classroom, in a boardroom, most things are nuanced and they're complex. They're too nuanced and too complex to be considered and discussed in 4 to 5 minutes. But that's what over a period of years, that's what we saw happen to commercial and national media. Whereas people brought up in the 1960s and 70s would remember talk programs that did go on for an hour or 90 minutes with a panel of people with a wide variety of views and opinions. And those views and opinions would be fleshed out and discussed. There might be some fairly robust debate. People might get a bit heated, but a good host would moderate, and ultimately it would be then left to the viewer or the listener to determine for themselves what they agreed with or didn't agree with. But over time, every issue, and everything is complex, nothing is black and white. Over time, everything has been reduced by the media to a few simple absolutes. And things are discussed in terms of black versus white, us versus them, right versus wrong, bigot versus libertarian, and so on. And of course, that has meant that I suppose we live in a time now, I think anyway, this is just my opinion, people have never been as poorly informed by the media. You think of the BBC's mantra, which is to educate, entertain, but also to inform. We've never seen it. I don't think, I'm pretty sure there has never been a time in human history when, well, at least in modern human history, when people have been so poorly served by the media that they have. Yeah. So what I've always tried to do was to find clever people. It's important that the people you bring on who are going to dissent against the prevailing opinions, government policies. It's also important that these people have kind of earned the right. It's important to bring people on, articulate people who've written, who've come out of academia, who've come out of the mainstream. I suppose in a roundabout way, not just throwing anybody on. Opinions are like, that famous adage, I'm not going to say it now because it's bad language, everybody's got one. There are lots of learned men and women who are precluded from the national debate, and I've just always strived to seek them out and offer them a platform and an audience, a pretty sizable audience, to flesh out these ideas in a way that they obviously can't do on the media because of what I've just said. So yeah, so that's about an accurate summing up of the radio show.
That's great. Thank you, Richie. So obviously a lot of people are anxious and kind of got cold turkey at the moment for the Richie Allen Radio Show. So they're all wondering, how's everything going? How's the launch coming on, the relaunch of the Richie Allen Show? Do you want to give us any kind of breakdown of what's been going on and anything?
Real soon, yeah. I will take possession next week of brand new broadcast console. sometime next week, maybe the middle of the week. And after that arrives, it's a matter of installing it. That'll take a couple of days. So really soon, I can't say exactly which day, but the show will be back really soon, back to
That's
normal.
great. So we're nearly
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, excited about it now. It's time enough, really. I've taken advantage of the unexpected break or pause
If you
in,
say so.
in the show. But
Unexpected.
yeah, well, I've looked after myself. I've done a lot of work on behalf of the program as well, and rested up. It's never had a break like this. It's been going for 8 years. Just September 15th, just last week, was the 8th, if you want to say, anniversary of this particular radio show. I've been doing radio off and on for 25 years, but this show's been around for 8 years. I've broadcast over 1,800 live radio shows in that time. That's not including lots of morning newspaper review live streams and stuff like that. So it was full on for 8 years. This break was unexpected. I think it's done me the power of good, but I'm kind of itching to get back now because I've never been, I don't want to say idle because I've not been idle, but I've never had such a time away from whatever job I was doing. So now it's time to get back. And yeah, to those who don't believe it,
Uh,
I really am coming back, This is not some sort of wind up, some sort of mind control thing where I'm, psychologically abusing people. I really am bringing the show
MK
back.
Ultra. He's been MK Ultra.
Yeah.
So
It's coming back. I can't wait.
Yeah, brilliant. That's absolutely amazing. A lot of the people who listen to this show will be watching this now saying, but Richie, you know what? There's another side to all of this. And that side is the mystical, the spiritual side, where nothing is really by chance or accident. Nothing is a coincidence. Everything happens for a reason. Now, of course, I'm drinking a coffee, and if you're drinking a coffee, that's coincidence. But when we look at deep things where things happen, and I probably told you the story before on your show of where the woman was waiting to get onto a bus in India and she was stopped. And of course, anybody else would be pushing to get on that bus. And because she didn't get on that bus, when she actually got on the next bus and got to where it was, she found that the white people on that bus, because she was white, were all murdered, killed. So that her life was saved by that moment. But the journey before and the journey to where she ended, what was her thoughts? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
So where we are now, Richie, in my humble opinion, soon as this happened, I thought this means Richie needs to recharge, stand back, have a look, see what's going on, and maybe become the most amazing, powerful energy that you are and continue to be. Because sometimes I think the universe sees that there are times of we get so close into what we're doing, we don't see what we're doing because it's right there in front of us. We're doing it. And until you stand back and say, oh my God, I didn't realize I did what I did. So you need opportunities like this, Richard. Do you believe that or not?
Oh, yeah. Look, do I believe it? I don't believe in lying. I neither believe it nor disbelieve it. I'm open-minded to it. Of course, Mark. Jesus, look, yeah, of course this is very possible. It's not something in years gone by when I was very much of a kind of a pragmatist. I've said this to you before. If I can see it, if I can touch it, if I can taste it, if I can smell it, it must be real. Anything outside of the five senses, well, I never bought into that. But of course I can believe it. And I'll tell you a really quick story, which I'm pretty sure you'll have read before, but maybe some of your viewers won't know this. But about 20 years ago, a number of universities came together to do a really interesting study about energy and about something that we would call the sixth sense. The sixth sense being when you get a feeling about something. We did a great show one night, me and you, several years ago, and we got a huge reaction from listeners when we talked about times when we knew something and we couldn't explain why. It was much more of it was a much stronger thing than deja vu. It was something really powerful. I knew something and it happened. But some years ago, I said I'd make this quick, and here I am rambling on. I'll make it very quick. Some years ago, some university students and academics, faculties got together And they decided to look into intuition and sixth sense. And the way they did it was pure genius. They took a list of deadly plane crashes which killed everyone on board. And they looked over a period of about 25 years. So they took all of these plane crashes and then they did something astounding. They looked into whether or not those crashes which killed everybody on board, whether they had a higher than usual proportion of no shows before those planes took off. Did
Amazing.
those planes, most planes, there's an average, there is a figure. Most planes that take off will be missing a few passengers. This is one of the reasons why they oversell flights. We all know this. But the researchers wanted to know, were the planes that went down killing everyone on board, did they have more no-shows than the others? And they found out categorically, yes,
Yes.
and in huge numbers. Because some people got up on that day and for whatever reason, something told them, don't get on the plane. Now, I'm
Or
not saying
something stopped them. Or something stopped them.
exactly. I'm not saying for a minute that all of these people went, oh, I don't fancy flying today. It might be a bit dangerous. I'm not saying that at all. But something happened, and they fleshed this out, and they concluded that yes, there was something worth investigating further, which I
Yeah.
don't think they ultimately did. Make your own mind up as to why. But imagine that the planes that crashed, killing everybody on board, had a far higher percentage of no shows than any other planes in that period of 20, 25 years. Astounding. How could you ignore that? I
Yeah.
can't ignore that.
And actually the spiritual world does ignore that to a degree, because the spiritual world uses certain aspects of spirituality in favor of spiritualism. It's another ism, basically. That's why I don't like to call myself spiritual too much, because it's been misinterpreted, and
Yeah.
and people use spirituality in so many ways to make them feel stronger, better. But yeah, when you look at that, there is an ideology in the spiritual world that we all die, and there's no such things as mistakes. There's no such things as accidents. But when you take that and you see that, why is it that some people are allowed to live and some people are allowed to die? Why is that? Why can't we look at this as like you said at the beginning of this interview? Nothing is black and white.
No.
And even with spiritualism, they try to make it black and white, when in fact it's the absolute opposite. It's none of those and the above. There's so many shades of gray we can't say. I got ripped to shreds by doing a talk once about accidents. So the spiritualism world says there's no such thing as accidents, and I said, well, I think there is. Why? Because I had a man who came to me, and I closed my eyes and saw an accident, a young man smashing into something. And I said to the guy, I said, did your son have an accident? And he burst into tears. He says, yeah, he died. He drove that fast on his motorbike. He died. And when I attuned to the son, he was saying, sorry, I went too fast. I shouldn't have gone too fast, but he had a lot of issues on his mind, lots of worries about school and so and so. So I came to the conclusion that if what I felt was real, then we have. How can you say there's no such thing as accidents when there's free will? If there's no such thing as an accident, then there would be no such thing as free will. Free will to put your foot down on the accelerator, right? It's your free will to do that,
Or not to.
or not to. So I then became blacklisted from all spiritual people completely. And but you know that. I mean, you probably got blacklisted from the mainstream that you worked for when you started to go against mainstream-ism.
Oh yeah, the last time anybody did an interview with me was I was in London years ago, and a community radio station in Ireland. No, not a community, a commercial one, Tip FM. So it's a pretty big radio station. It would be Tipperary's radio station. They rang me up, and because I knew I had previously worked with one of their presenters. So he said, give him a ring. You know, everybody was interested in the TV thing in London and all what was going on there. So that was the last time. And they were pretty rude, and I just laughed. I was standing in a car park in a supermarket somewhere in London, and this guy thought he'd make a name for himself, shouting down the line at me, the presenter, about us all being crazy lunatics, like we were a big cult, you know. And I just laughed. I just kept laughing. I laughed so much, eventually he hung up. So, true story that. I must have looked like a right clown in the car park, standing there like this, giggling, laughing. But yeah, no, yeah, ostracized. Yeah,
It's
of course. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you do? It's because the program is so intense. I was thinking about this morning. The program, whoever created it, whether it was created well before the ancient Egyptians, where they've obviously said and proven that angels or whatever they may be, they were communicating with an extraterrestrial energy. And I watched a film once called Summit Carter, and it was of this guy who went into another world through whatever, and there was a manipulating force of beings that were manipulating every tribe to do what they wanted. And I watched that and I thought, you know what, this is what's happening here. We're being manipulated, and those, maybe not now because it's so ingrained into humanity now that these children, the fathers, the children are just doing the manipulating. They know what they're doing, whether it's eugenics or whatever it is. The Klaus Anal Schwab's doing whatever they're doing because they were programmed like that as children. It seems that the program is so powerful, it's so out of this world, that the system creates its own policing, even with the grass eaters. They all police themselves, and it's like, how do you break something that is so powerful as a system when everybody is so indoctrinated, so programmed? How do you break free from that, even though you keep sharing it with people, telling them?
Yeah.
Do you even think that if everybody suddenly woke up to tomorrow, do you think that program would actually be broken or
It's a
not?
great question. It's a great question. I happened to come across on Sky Cinema Gold, I think it's called, the other day, the Shawshank Redemption, which is a beautiful
Oh,
film,
brilliant.
lovely film about brotherhood and friendship. And there's a distressing scene in the film where the old man Brooks gets released from prison, but he's not able to adapt to life on the outside. So you can make a metaphor there. You
Yeah.
can say that the scene in the Shawshank Redemption is a metaphor for the reality that we understand. Brooks is in a prison. It's a terrible place where he's ordered when to get up, when to go to bed, when to go outside, when to eat. And he's, surrounded by bullying, mostly bullying, horrible guards. But when he gets outside, he can't deal with reality. So he prefers the prison. They call it institutionalization in the film, and ultimately he thinks about breaking the law to go back, but then he doesn't do that. Ultimately, then sadly he takes his own life. Now that might be a very childish and simplistic metaphor, but maybe there's something going on there. Maybe on some level, people do understand that this is terribly wrong. This reality, this system of control that which you call the program, they know it's terribly wrong. We've often talked about this, me and you, and separately. I've seen you talk about it with other people. Um, they're more. A lot of people are more scared of not the program they're in and what it's going to do to them eventually, but they're often, I think, more worried about the alternative. They fear the unknown. Like I've heard it said to me before, what would we do without these governments, Richie? And I said, well, we'd have a blank page, wouldn't we? We'd have the opportunity to kind of remake um, our communities in maybe in beautiful ways, maybe in really, I don't know, the stuff of storybooks. We could have paradise maybe. But some people have said to me, and I have to say it's the majority, oh no, it wouldn't be like that, Richie. The fittest and the strongest would survive, and all the local thugs, all the scumbags, they'd be in charge. And I'm like, so for a lot of people, Mark, it's a very simplistic answer. I don't know if it's true. They fear they fear what might be outside the prison more than the prison itself. Does that make any sense?
It is so eloquently put and so easy to digest. You're absolutely 100% right. So basically, we control ourselves. We put ourselves in that prison because that virtual prison is the safest place, because most of us are frightened of the what ifs, where we're going, what I can't see, so it's not good. I don't know where that is, so I'm scared of it. We've been programmed that way, so we don't expand our consciousness. We fear the future instead of embrace it. And I think you're absolutely right. And we've created that virtual prison, and just leave us alone. Let us eat the grass. Let us do what we normally do. Give us entertainment. Give us the bread. Give us the circuses. This is all we want. And there's something interesting about that. I was thinking about this as well. We talk about a world of energy in my world of energy exchange, which means that John calls me and, John, I need an helping hand. I need to paint my barn. Okay, I'll be down there in today, and I'll give you a hand, and I'll bring a couple of friends with me. We paint the barn. I ring John. John, I need a helping hand here. There's something wrong with my fridge. Can you help me? Yeah, I'll come up in 15 minutes. So we help each other, and that's energy exchange. Now that doesn't feed the system. The system realizes that it's losing money every moment, every day, by people doing good acts. It doesn't make, it doesn't create, it doesn't build, it doesn't strengthen the system. It actually weakens it. So my point being is that we ask for energy of exchange, but yet the moment that we're being told that money may be disappearing and it's going to be something else, we get frightened of it. All of us, even me. But the reason why I see myself getting frightened is because I know what they're doing. It's not about the money. It's about what they're doing.
What's happening, yeah.
Yeah. So if somebody said to me, okay, Matt, I like the idea of energy exchange. We're going to get rid of money and we're going to work on energy. We're going to help each other and we're going to create. We're going to do this. Okay, that's great. Let's see what we can do. I like the idea of an open book and creating things that could work in a way that isn't about manipulating, isn't about the bully being more powerful and stronger. We've seen it in all films, all videos. You know, the person with money seems to be the most powerful all the time. Why is that? That's a program. It's been programmed into us that if you've got money, you're powerful. So it's a program.
Goes back a long time. I used to read a lot of books about explorers when I was a much younger boy. I loved fiction. When I was 9, 10, 11, 12, I was reading fiction books. I loved Stephen King. I even used to read, even as a young man, Wilbur Smith, which was a bit heavy for a kid, but I used to read about the Courtneys in Africa. And then I kind of moved on to reading about 17th, 18th, 19th century explorers. And I used to be fascinated, and I mean this as a fairly young lad, pre-teen, early teens, by this concept of, so explorers would set out and they would go to the Americas or they would go to the South Pacific. And sometimes they would happen upon indigenous people and tribes. And of course, these explorers would claim, some sort of success in having discovered these people, which was ludicrous because these people were always there, But then they would write about these people. And I was very aware as a young man that when they would write about these people, they would call them primitive. They would always use the term primitive to describe indigenous peoples who lived a very basic existence. But as I got a little bit older still, I used to think, wow, what an inversion, really. Aren't we the primitive ones? Because when you have a really good hard look at how indigenous tribes, particularly in the Andes, for example, in the Amazon, in parts of the South Pacific in Australia, when you look at how these Native Americans, how these societies functioned, they functioned on the platform of energy exchange, that everybody in the community is a valuable important, energetic being who brings something to the party. There was no money. Money didn't exist, right? You were pretty good at the fishing. You were pretty good at making huts. You're damn good at, I don't know, irrigation, whatever. And you all come together. And I remember reading these things to see these legendary explorers describe this way of living as primitive is almost madness now. When you think of how we live today, we as I speak with you, I think it's finished now. The current UK Chancellor of the Exchequer, it's a guy called Kwasi Kwarteng. Now he knows as much about international finance as my German Shepherd and Golden Retriever. In fact, I'd put money on the dogs having more of a rounded knowledge of international financial affairs than Kwasi Kwarteng. He's a moron, right? And he's there today and he's talking about a lot of things. And one of the things he's talking about is how we must make it harder for poor people to get benefits. We got to squeeze. He didn't use those exact words, but it's exactly what he's saying. We must squeeze people. We must, interest rates going up the Bank of England. Mortgages are going to be more expensive. Kids are going to have no chance to own their own homes. All this stuff is happening. And I'm thinking primitive. We went to Fez in Morocco.
Yeah.
We saw, that's Masonic, by the way. I'm actually wiping my eye. Somebody will say that's Masonic. I love messing around with the Masonic people.
Absolutely.
All the gestures. That's just me taking a mickey.
Why don't we create something else? Why don't we?
There you go.
There's something new.
But surely living in a community where nobody wants for anything, where everybody mucks in and pitches in, where there's little or no violence or criminality, little or none. If you read about, the indigenous peoples of all of the places I just mentioned, violence, criminality, just non-existent. And you look at the lunatic asylum that we currently exist in, it's just a silly little aside, but it's
and we dare look upon others who live in nature. That's how we should live.
It's backwards,
as if they're backwards, yeah. And even the word basic, I would say they're far from basic.
Yeah.
Far from basic, because everything that they do, they may climb a tree and get honey. And that day is the most amazing day. The smiles, you see the happiness, the joy. Look at us. We're buying Gucci handbags that make us happy for 30 seconds. And then we're looking for another quick fix.
Speak for yourself with your Gucci handbags over there.
All right. Armani then.
Gucci man bags. You meant to say man bags.
I'm swearing. How dare you, Chanel? Yeah, the world has literally gone mad, and we scratch our heads daily. And I guess that's probably why you've lost most of your hair, because you've scratched your hair looking at these folks.
Just genetics. That's all. I can't blame it on current affairs.
Somebody asked a question, Richie, and the question was, Mark, I'm very interested in knowing, does hair have hair on the head? Is it like an antenna, and does it connect you to, obviously higher frequencies? Well, we should ask Richie. Remember when you had hair? And like now.
I had a ponytail once, like you did once, Mr. Steven Seagal over there. I had a ponytail when I was 17, 18. In fact, I know quite a few people who had dodgy ponytail. You had a terribly dodgy ponytail. And Peter Ebdon had a terrible ponytail.
Yeah.
In the late 1980s. Excuse me, early 1990s. But have you got little copper extensions or something in your hair to reach the frequencies? Is that what it is?
I tell you what, I'm not kidding you, right? This is the truth.
I swallowed water the wrong way.
I don't know if you can see this, but can you see my ball patch?
No.
You can.
No, it's a solar panel for a love machine. That's what I see.
So people have said, "Oh, you were definitely a monk in your last life," or some people say it looks like, yeah. I don't know. At the end of the day, there's so many new ideas, I can't really keep up to them right now. There's so many regurgitation of information of, I don't know if you know this, but there's something going around like, David Icke just did something about the light. If when you die, don't go into the light, run away from it because it's a trap. The other one now.
How does he know that?
Sorry?
How does he know that?
He doesn't. I guess it's just his belief. That's all. Yeah, it's all belief systems. Like if you've sat with somebody who's moving into the light, like I have many people over these 20 years as a healer, if you sat with them, they hold their hand out and they'll predominantly say that my grandma's here, or they'll talk to somebody. Okay, now science will say that's the brain breaking down, but I know that's not true because I'm in the room and I already felt spirit in the room before they came in the room, and I could feel spirit, and I'm wondering when or if they're going to feel that your member of family is here now. And then all of a sudden they'll say, oh, and they'll start, John, what you doing here? And like, I'm smiling. I'm like, oh my God, this is the best thing in the world. I don't need science to tell me anything. I'm in this room. This person's ready to move into the light. The family members come. Do you really think that if a family member is talking to, say, Sid, who's just dying here of cancer, you think he'd say, listen, mate, don't, whatever you do, go into the light? He would tell them, he would be screaming at them, don't go into the light.
Yeah.
Now, everything, if you believe that everything is free will, if you believe that, I'm not into anything other than what I've seen with my own eyes and felt with my own hands. I say this, that we have I believe the choice is ours. Like, you have a choice to put your foot on the brake. You have the choice to move into the spirit world back home, or a choice to come back here to do whatever you want to do again, to learn again. That's how I see it, as a simplistic way of life. We come and go. So when people move into the spirit world and I'm here and I then feel them in the spirit world and out of this body, they're there and they're at peace and they're in harmony. Some people go and then I don't feel them and I think, okay, they must have come back to a body. So there's a choice. There's always a choice. I don't believe there's a trap. I just think it's a great way of again, another fear factor, another way of making money. And it's another a modern version of listen to me kind of thing. And there's something going on now. I know I'm going on a bit, but there's something going on now about NPCs? Basically, loads of people are now read about it and regurgitating as if it's their information. And it's basically about that everybody around you, we're in a matrix, in a game, and everybody around you are not real. They're basically playing they're playing in a game, and there's only 100 million people who actually are real people, and the rest are just fillers in us.
Where's this coming from? Whose theory is this?
It's been around for a while. It's basically taken from a game or a film. It was a film. I'm not sure exactly. There's so many different versions of it. But what do you
think of it?
I've met people. Well, what it must mean is that I've met 10,000 of these so-called awakened souls, that those 100 million, and I have not met. For some reason, I haven't met any of them that aren't awakened. So I've sat and have conversations with thousands of people. I've given healing sessions to thousands of people. What I can say is that some people are more aware and awake than others. Some people use their spirit and intuition more than others. Some people are programmed so much. So maybe that it's just a metaphor of people who are so heavily invested in outside world instead of inside world that they appear to be responsive to truth, and that's my take on it. I don't know, mate. It's just a thought.
It's new to me. El Frogo Tremendo has just thrown Dolores Cannon at me. This is
Yeah,
somebody who's written about this stuff, apparently.
yeah, she's a lovely lady, and she's a channel, and she speaks to apparently aliens and all of these people, and she comes across as a lovely lady. But again, if your car breaks down, would you take it to somebody who writes about cars, or would you take it to somebody who fixes cars?
Yeah, obviously the mechanic. Yeah,
Okay, so I've worked on over 10,000 people, and there's got to be a percentage of people that surely that I've met here and there that or maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm completely wrong. Maybe the people who only come to me are those that of that 100 million, and the rest we never really know who they are or see. I don't know.
it's
I find
fascinating
it
theory.
fascinating. I don't know. It's
Yeah,
a really difficult one for me. But again, it's another theory and one that I can't prove or disprove. All I can say is that everybody I've come across, whether they've been the Russian mafia, gangsters, priests that have done terrible things to children, all of these people I have helped touch their spirit and soul from changing them slightly. This is what we're talking about before you came on. And they changed to, oh my God, I need to change my way. Or after a healing session, I want to do good. I want to change my way. You know what I mean? The
yeah.
system doesn't do that. You stick them in prison, bring them back out, and they want to be even more of what they were most of the time. But yeah, it's fascinating. Anyway, let's move on.
Hey, just before we do, somebody called Hannah. Just been looking at some of the comments.
Oh, thank
Is
you.
repeatedly asking, "Who the hell is this guy?" I'm a journalist who has a radio show. That's all I am, and I'm Mark's guest today. I do a radio show, richieallen.co.uk. So that's
Yeah.
nice. Maybe have a potential listener whenever I do get back, which will be
Yeah,
soon,
I mean,
very
who
soon.
was it? Hannah, did you say?
Hannah, yeah, how are you doing, Hannah?
Hannah,
By the way,
Hannah, thank you for joining us today, Hannah. Big hugs and cuddles to you. Just, I'll give you a breakdown of Richie in 2 minutes. When I first heard Richie, he was ranting and raving over something that anybody else would have run out of the room. And I was sat there thinking, go on, go on. He's the one who says things that we don't say, we're frightened of saying. And sometimes he uses interesting language. And I'm like,
colorful language.
yeah, go on. I'm like, and I think most people who daren't admit that watch his show because he speaks on behalf of people who are frustrated in life, frustrated of what's going on, and he releases a lot of frustration. And he's a healer in his own right by way of speaking truth. Most people speak on mainstream media and say nothing, and some people speak and say everything. So that's what Richie is. But mostly, Richie brings on people who have different ideologies, thoughts, feelings, and difference of opinion to mainstream, and it's a breath of fresh air. So when the show's back on, I honestly I just listen to one show or two shows, and you get addicted to it. It's like, because you want to know truth. So I don't put TV on. I threw my TV away years ago, and this is the only form of listening to real life, real people who are experiencing what they're experiencing. It's called the boots on the ground, right, Richard? You try to get to the boots on the ground when there's a war. You want to speak to somebody in the middle of that war saying, actually, this is a lot of bullshit what they're saying on mainstream media. This is what's really happening, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And what I've always tried to do, and maybe it's a natural thing, maybe I don't try too hard, but I've always tried to inject an element of humor into what it is I do, because it's
Irish humor. It's
Irish humor.
Irish
Yeah,
humor. Yeah.
it translates though. It's an amazing thing. I come from a country with only 5 million people in it, and yet I've been lucky enough to have travelled in not all five continents, but four continents. And wherever I've gone, people tend to get our humor, except the Germans. Funnily enough, now
No,
I love Germany.
there's a lot of people
Yeah,
the Croatian Serbians. They've got a different
well, do
way
you
of.
know what it is with the Germans? I'll tell you what it
Mhm.
is with the Germans. I remember being in Munich many years ago with some Irish guys who had left Ireland to work in Munich, so they were living there permanently. And I was there, and I was big group of Germans in a pub called Gunther Murphy's, which is a famous pub in Munich, still going today. And one of the Irish lads had suffered a bit of a disgrace in his job. He'd been fired for making saucy phone calls. So, obviously, as is the style of the Irish and British humour, you rip the unmerciful piss out of the chap, and he takes it because, because we love him. We don't think he's a pervert. Because he wasn't. He was just an idiot. So we love the guy, and we're just going to rib him about that for the rest of his life, as he would rib us about our disgraces and what have you. But I remember a little while after this had kicked off, this bit of Mickey taking, I'd gone to the bar to get Zwei Hellebitter, 2 big massive pints of beer. And one of the German blokes came over and he was really concerned. And he said, it's not right like that. That what you were saying about him there, that was a terrible thing that happened to him and losing his job and all that. And I had to explain to the guy, this is what we do, we rip the piss out of one another, out of love. He's our friend.
It's healing in its own way, right? It's a healing process. You've got to laugh at stuff that you do, or else you're just going to go insane. But the
German thing in Germany?
No, the Germans are very precise. I know I've got a lot of German friends. They're very precise, and the way they see humor is different from us. Now, Serbians are the same. It's like why did you mock somebody? Because that's what we do. Well, that's not right. You shouldn't mock people, but that's what we do. I mean, I mock people every day in my head. I'm always getting a joke thinking, oh, don't stop. So it's like, but it's not meant. And it's hard for people to understand that when we tell a joke that may mock somebody, we don't mean it.
Mark, he was phoning what he thought were 21-year-old virgin young women when he was really talking to a 75-year-old granny with a blue rinse on, and he was paying £2 a minute for the privilege. His company caught him and fired him.
Was he working at the company at the same time?
Yes, he'll be getting...
I'd fire him too.
The next time I see him, he'll be over here watching Manchester United, and he'll still get it 25 years later.
It's great. Yeah, brilliant. It's brilliant. So, Richard, let's move on to something a little bit more serious. What's going on at the moment? If you were doing a show this morning, what would be your newspaper headline? What would you be, just so people can get a flavor of what it is you do? Could you just give us maybe a couple of, I don't know, headline, lamestream media nonsense?
Yeah, it's not like we set this up. Thanks for asking me, Mark. Yeah, I have. There is one story which grabbed me this morning. This is really interesting now. I'm sure that many of your viewers will have heard of something called Prevent, in inverted commas. Now, Prevent is a British government initiative to try and root out extremism amongst young people. Prevent was introduced a few years ago to help protect us all from future terrorists, not just Islamic terrorism, but domestic terrorism. It's a really, really sinister thing. When Prevent was initially launched, we all said how incredibly sinister it was, because it was putting the onus on teachers and assistant teachers and caregivers to basically spy on children.
SS, we're back to 1940s again, eh?
Yeah, and listen to their conversations and to try and pick up any red flags, not just listen to their conversations, but also monitor their internet browsing and all of this sort of stuff so that we could catch tomorrow's terrorists. Now, it's a horrible thing. You hit the nail on the head, by the way. Absolutely right, Nazi Germany stuff. So it's a big story in the Times today. I don't know if this will be backwards, but there it is. I don't know if I can show you that there. Counter-terrorism training compares Princess Diana conspiracy theories with JFK assassination. But that's a really redundant headline. Yeah. It's a redundant headline because really, the real story's got nothing really to do with Princess Diana and JFK. Yeah. So the government's flagship Prevent Anti-Extremism program has used material suggesting that there are legitimate questions over the circumstances of the death of Diana, Princess of Wales. Now, this is kind of interesting. We might come back to that in a moment. Let's move on down. These are strategies, new strategies that Prevent is now handing to head teachers, anybody who looks after children. And they've grouped these strategies into a couple of groups. Now, one of the groups says this. One of the groups is titled Dangerous to Yourself and Others. So head teachers are being told that statements made by children now, such as global warming hoax, Finland doesn't exist, bizarrely. Who's ever questioned the legitimacy of Finland? I can't imagine a child anywhere in the world saying, hey, listen, this is some load of bollocks. Finland doesn't exist. Well, we've heard people say the Holocaust never happened. Morons, right? But Finland doesn't exist. Give me a break, right? Dinosaurs didn't exist. And deep state. If you hear a child using terms like deep state, if you hear a child say global warming is a hoax, that is to be considered dangerous to the child expressing that and also dangerous to others. I'm not making this up. This isn't the Times today. But then bizarrely, the same document actually says that there are legitimate questions surrounding the death of Diana. And that if a child is saying like, I'm not too sure now that bodyguard was pissed, or I'm not too sure the driver was drunk and maybe something more sinister happened to Diana, that's nothing to worry about, says Prevent, because these are legitimate questions. Also, questioning the death of JFK is also nothing to worry about if the children are talking about JFK. Can't imagine any children at a primary school or a high school in 2022 talking about JFK.
It's not about that. It's about the parents, right?
It's about the parents. And we said this 5-6 years ago when Prevent was first launched, that they want to get inside the house, inside the homestead. And the children and what the children are saying might be a window onto what mum and dad are saying at home. Because mum and dad might be saying, perfectly legitimately, is there really any evidence that CO2 made by, produced, CO2 produced as a byproduct of our industrial activity, is there any evidence that this is warming the planet dangerously? Now, the honest to God answer is no, there isn't any evidence. And I know this, and a lot of people know this. But to say to head teachers that this is a danger to the child and a danger to others is no big surprise to me. But to see it in black and white is no less chilling anyway. We know this is where it's going, but it's no less unsettling to see them blatantly say this. Presumably there was a time when authority figures wouldn't have the balls to say stuff like that. They'd run for the hills because we'd be coming after them with pitchforks and torches. But now they openly say that if you have an opinion on climate change, if you have an opinion on the deep state, like if a child is talking about the deep state, which is something we know exists, it's a state within a state. It's where the real shite goes on. It's where decisions are made to take us down this Orwellian dystopian path. But for a child to be labelled as a danger to himself, herself, and others for even uttering such phrases, using such terminology, we knew this is not a huge surprise. It's in the Times today, but it's chilling. It's chilling, that, isn't it? And you know the implications of that. I was thinking the other day, and then I'm going to shut up because this is your show at the end of the day.
No, I brought you on for a coffee chat, please.
Do you remember? I drove in Spain, and then I came back to England. I didn't drive for a few years. There was an issue. I had to go and redo my license. So in 2016, I got my full driver's license. No problem. I did the test. Bingo, got it first time because I was an experienced driver. So I had my license 2016. and I get a Ford Focus Estate with about 1 million miles on it, but I loved it. And I'm sitting driving it around, and I had a Pakistani mate called Asif, and he said, "Now, Richie, don't forget you're classed as a new driver again. You have to be very careful about accumulating points on your license." And I'm like, I'm going to sound like a real misogynist. I said, like, I'm a granny behind the wheel. I'm not going to get any speeding fines. They're going to penalise me for driving slow. I just, I chill out when I'm on the motorway. I just into cruise control, sit back, enjoy the drive. So I didn't have to worry about that. But he said, "No, Richie, for the first 2 years, if you get more than 6 points or whatever,
Your
you'll get a
insurance
ban."
goes up and everything. Yeah.
Of course. Anyway, I read into it, and I found out that if you got done for speeding and they put 6 points on your license, there was a wonderful scam. I think it still exists today.
Yeah.
You could pay 150 quid to do a course.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, my daughter did the same thing.
Did she? They're trying to get caught speeding.
Yeah,
brilliant.
On a motorbike.
On a motorbike. So rather than get the points, they said, if you come and do the course, we'll waive the points.
Yeah, exactly.
That's amazing. So last night we were chatting about these things, myself and the future Mrs. El Frogo Tremendo. And she had a bit of a brainwave, and I think she's bang on the money here. In the future, when there is no cash and you have a social credit system whereby you'll be punished, in the future, if you're caught saying climate change is a load of bollocks, it's not real, what they'll do is they'll put 6 points on your social credit score. Yeah. But if you agree to go next Wednesday week,
we'll put it back on. But that's exactly what they're doing, Richard. It's exactly right.
Yeah.
But we can see all this coming. Yeah. All of this is coming. All of this is, if you don't, this is an up-to-date version of when you and I were at school and we said, hang on a minute. If God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit are all one, why did Jesus say to God, "Forgive them, Father, they know not what they do"? That would mean that he's talking to himself.
Yeah.
Bajerski, get out!
You're not allowed to say that.
Whack, whack. Okay. Repeat after me, right on that board. There is 100 times. Okay, now we'll let you go. It's the same thing. Nothing's changed. It's basically the bully in the playground. And the playground now is this world, and the bully is controlling the world, and nothing has changed. It's still the same thing.
Do you remember?
It is what it is.
Do you remember that old Brendan Grace joke? The great Brendan Grace, Irish comedian, the late great Brendan Grace. He used to do a character called Bottler, which is a schoolboy. There's a lovely. You just reminded me. There's a lovely little scene that he used to do. Bottler is in school. The priest comes over to visit. God is everywhere. He's not everywhere. He's not everywhere, says Bottler. He is, says the priest. He couldn't be. He is, says the priest. Is he in Murphy's backyard? Yes. Murphy has no backyard. Get out. Get out. That was the response. The priest was supposed to be God's messenger. Yeah, and we read all these stories about Jesus. Jesus is beautiful. Jesus said, "Leave the children, suffer the children to come on to me. Don't ever give out the children. Don't be angry with children." And you'd priests screaming at us.
Yeah.
Get out.
Yeah. My favorite one is George Carlin. George Carlin, that the best ever. I just can't. I've tried so hard to understand God to get him. Apparently he's on this big fluffy cloud telling everybody that if you misbehave, you're going to be sent to the pits of hell. You're going to be burnt for the rest. For the rest of your existence. But he loves you.
But he
looks like.
Yeah, I prefer. I mean, if God and the devil exist, and they might do, I don't know. I wouldn't insult anybody. I'm open-minded, but I prefer Al Pacino's devil in The Devil's Advocate. I prefer that character.
No, yeah.
Rather than the all vengeful, all punishing God, which I can't believe. I can't imagine exists. Not in that form, anyway.
If you've ever spoken to those that believe in Satan, the fallen angel, a lot of them have great energy when they speak about the fact that he is being misinterpreted. He is actually the true one. And there's an argument to be said about all of that. But you know what? I'm not interested in any of it. All religion, all devil worship. I have no interest in.
Look at Iran. Look at Iran this week. If you want to, I mean, I've heard it said by an old friend of mine that religion is tantamount to madness. Organized religion, excuse me. You look at that situation in Iran. Now, I will have defended Iran on shows when it comes to interference in Iran from Israel and from the United States and from Britain. But to see a young woman, and this is true, I think it is true. I know you can't believe everything you see in the media. I know that. Ironically, we know that. But for a woman to be beaten to death by the religious police because she wouldn't wear the hijab, this is a big story in Iran. And Iranian women have been taken to the streets. That's just lunacy, isn't it? How could they imagine that a God would stand over that and that God would say, yes, well done for killing that young woman. I was really pissed off up of here. I couldn't believe she wasn't wearing her veil. Thanks for beating her to death. It's madness. God might very well exist, but I don't think most human beings have any idea what God is. I certainly don't. So.
Yeah, well, I think the word God is misinterpreted. You know, some people turn it the other way around and call it a dog or whatever. But for me, it's like right now we're praying Saturday. We're all coming together for various people and various places. One such place is there, and a lot of my clients are saying that a lot of women are being killed right now, more than you can imagine, because of this. All in the name of religion.
Madness, eh?
It's heartbreaking to see. Like you said, we are the primitive ones. Look at us. We're just. My dad wasn't a very nice man, but one thing he did say, which I believe was correct, was the most dangerous animal in the world isn't the lion, the tiger. You know, it's humans. We're the most dangerous. Look at what we do: cut down the life of trees, kill good people. You know, and it would seem that through the this idea of religion or power, we have to kill. We have to get rid of the ants, the flies that they see us as. And there's not much you can do to change that, Richie, I don't think. I mean, what do you do? What do you put them all on an island? Well, you can't do that, can you? Because they control all the puppets that tell us what to do absolutely have no power at all. They only perceive that they've got power. The real people are the ones that we never see, who make the commands that tell all the armies of the world what to do. And if we're out of place, they just send somebody to knock you out. So we're led by an absolute insane, dark, deep, and it is a deep and dark state. It's insane, but it's all to do with power and greed, I think. And they use everything as a way of manipulating. Like, one thing that I did notice, that Richard, when I had a business, I used to listen to individuals in the sense of the negative ones, not the positive ones. And I think we all do that. And it's almost seems like the world's gone that way. So, like, imagine if imagine that 99% of the world drives a normal speed, but one person drives crazy. We will then change the whole of the idea of what we were doing, which 99% was doing right, but we change it for the 1% who did wrong. And like everything that you go into a town center, nobody's in the town center, but you park your car there and forget to put a ticket on, and you'll get a £60 fine. And then you wonder, and then the world wonders why nobody's in the town centers anymore, and they're all going bust. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And I think the world's gone insane, and I think that we're looking for anything to stop us from anything going wrong. So we need to create another law, another this, another that, so that this never happens. Well, how many times has it happened? Once. So you're going to ruin it for everybody else, because this is how it seems. But then when you look deeper, it's normally because they wanted that anyway.
Absolutely. And can manipulate events, like create a false flag event.
Yeah,
Like
if
the vast
that 1%
majority of people,
don't do it. Yeah,
that's right.
You're so right.
100%, the vast majority of people, 99.9999999%, would never raise a hand in anger against anybody. And then there's a terrorist attack in a city, maybe one in 5 6 years, maybe, and somebody is injured or somebody is killed. It's a terrible thing. It should be dealt with in isolation. But no, let's introduce a whole raft of new laws, surveillance. Well, hang on a second. It's one guy out of millions. The rest of us go about our normal lives.
Right, but if you say that though, Richie, you are now we're now going to put you on mainstream media and tell you how bad you are. If people can't see that this is all staged, that this is an absolute game, then there's no helping people. How do you help? Even though you said that you were into all of that, but then 9/11 came and then you realize something's wrong, you know, I still have to try and believe to myself that there is hope for humanity. There's still hope.
That's a good point, and there's no modesty here. I'm bright, but I'm not exceptionally bright, and I'm not far brighter than anybody else. So I look at it from the point of view that if the penny could drop for somebody like me who was happy going along within the dream world, if you want to call it that, if I could become aware of it, well, lots more people might become aware of it, and maybe there'll be a tipping point. Maybe there'll be, you know, when things get really bad financially, maybe at that stage we might start to see more disobedience, and we might start to see people start finding themselves listening to.
Well, they'll have nothing to lose then, have they?
No, that's right.
This is the thing. They'll have nothing to, mind you, they're saying that then if there's a credit system and you're not going to be able to eat anything because you've been a naughty boy and you're not going to eat anything, then maybe you still have something to lose, right?
Yes, and I was thinking about this morning on my run. I was thinking about a scene. I love using films as metaphors, my great friend. We've watched A Few Good Men about 75 times. We love that. Tom Cruise and Jack Nicholson, Kevin Bacon, Kevin Pollak, Demi Moore. Great film. But there's a lovely scene in it when during the trial, Kiefer Sutherland plays a subordinate of Jack Nicholson, and he's a bit of a bastard, Kiefer Sutherland, and he's been questioned by Tom Cruise, and Tom Cruise said, "You gave Private Downey a bad rating one time, didn't you? Why?" And he doesn't want to tell him, and Tom Cruise says it's because he gave food to a Marine that was being punished and told that he was on rations. And this keeps coming back to me about the social credit system.
Yes.
You know, and Tom Cruise says, why did you give him a bad rating? He was a perfect Marine. All he done was gave some food to a hungry Marine. And Kiefer Sutherland's character says he committed a crime. And Tom Cruise says, it's not a crime, really, giving food to a hungry guy. And you talk there about people being told when they get to the supermarket, sorry, we can't take your transaction today for your bread and your cheese and your soup and your pasta because your credit rating, your social credit rating isn't up to speed. Well, there might be, I know for a fact you'd say, right, I'll be around at 5 o'clock and I'll bring some stuff from the garden. But there'll be consequences in the future social credit world for you for helping them out.
Yeah, they did that in America.
I was thinking about this morning. Yeah.
In America, when you go outside and you want to sell some or give some food away, they were basically arresting people, giving food away to people who were homeless. This is the world that we live in. This is, it reminds me of, do you remember a film which was fantastic? I watched it a few times. It's something about the gods. It was a Coca-Cola bottle that hit the floor in indigenous tribe that had never seen a Coca-Cola bottle before, and they started using it, and one woman found that if she rolled some of the bread that she was making, and it would roll really well, and then somebody else wanted it, and then all of a sudden jealousy started kicking in. This tribe, because this Coca-Cola bottle, they could do things with it. And all of a sudden, they'd never experienced this. And one of the elders said, this is evil. Whatever this is, it's evil, because it's causing people to hurt each other for the first time. Nobody'd hurt each other, but somebody smashed somebody over the head with the bottle, because they wanted it. And it feels like that we've gone to a state now that I think we've lost our true connection of why we're here, for helping our brothers and sisters and growing. We've grown so fast. We've grown so quickly that I think we've lost our way because of the growth. It's been done so fast.
You mean the technological, do you?
Everything spiritual. There's anal sunbathing. There's clitoral yoga. I can go on and on. There's so many sick and twisted things that are happening in this world, and it reminds me of when I was a kid. I used to watch. Do you remember Elizabeth Taylor in a film where? It was called Cleopatra. There was one scene where they were all worshipping different gods, and they were all having sex with each other, and they're all whoa, and they were just all in this ideology of appeasing the gods, And we've done it for centuries. Look what the Mayans, they used to kill babies and throw them down these pyramids and so on. So it seems that it's always been in this ideology, this indoctrine that we need to appease. We need to do these things. It's just we are a strange animal on this planet. We really are strange people.
There's another inversion there. These days, people who call out such perversions and abominations and suggest that these are things that shouldn't be seen by children. These are things that shouldn't be discussed by or presented to children. The people who question these things, and I have to be honest, because I believe in being honest. There was a time before I had my I don't want to say enlightenment, but there was a time when, I would have said that people do what they want, and so long as it isn't interfering with me, I would have said that. I now believe that's the wrong approach to it. I totally believe that's the wrong approach to it. I think people should call stuff out. Hayden has been kicked off of Twitter. Hayden Hewitt,
really,
the filmmaker, the director, yeah, and all around amazing bloke is Hayden. Yeah, he reckons it's because he's had some encounters with trans activists, but I think they've wanted to get him for a long time, because he's had the courage to call out some of the abominations that go on during the Pride Parade here in Manchester. Outlandish stuff that goes on, stuff that should never see the light of day.
I know.
And Hayden is he's no, you couldn't pigeonhole Hayden or categorize him, but he certainly has no issue with gay men and women, none whatsoever. No distrust of them, no dislike of them, none whatsoever. But he has the courage to call out what's just plain dreadful. Why would you tolerate that?
Yeah,
I think
bring them into schools as well. To bring it all into a school. I'm sorry, mate. That's yeah. There's no words, is there?
No, it's designed to mess up the minds of children. These are things that children can't comprehend.
Yeah,
because they're not mature enough to comprehend. Discuss these things at university if you want. Discuss them in the latter part of your high school, 16, 17. That's if they want to discuss them. But leave them alone. Yeah, he's been booted off finally. Yeah, and that's it. So these are things you don't speak of. They are abominable. To be very specific. Obviously, transgender people are not an abomination. Gay people are not an abomination. But a faction
exactly.
of the pride crowd are pretty happy doing fairly disgusting things in
Yeah,
public.
yeah, they are. I mean, I have a lot of clients and friends who are openly gay, and they discuss their things, especially some of the more seeded things they talk about. But if they were to start getting up on stage and talking to children about them things, there's got to come a point where you would say, "Excuse me, mate, that is not right." But then if a government turns around and says, you sit down, you sit down, or you're going to be in trouble, then we're in real trouble. Then we're
Yeah.
in real trouble.
Oh yeah,
We're
100%.
in
Yeah.
real trouble.
And that's what's happening. Like you look at the prevent strategy that we talked about a moment ago. It's asking head teachers to listen out for children who say that climate change theory is a hoax. And children who use terms like deep state, they must be monitored because it's harmful. Well, how long before they include, well, let's add to the list children who complain that they've been asked to call their male friend by a female name and they don't like it, or because they express surprise that young Keith has suddenly started turning up to school wearing a dress.
Mm.
Uh, well, that's dangerous. So let's put that on the list of things that children shouldn't be saying.
Yeah, well, it used to be
This is where it goes.
if a child wet themselves, if a child had bruises, you would okay, well, maybe there's something in that. But now like I said, it starts there and then it goes on to an extent that it becomes insane.
Yeah, the
Right,
Scottish Parliament.
but then if you take that away, Richard, and say, okay, what if somebody is actually doing this for their own benefit? What if they're doing this for an agenda? What if they're wanting children to be openly seeing all and hearing all about sex? So then it makes it easier for, let's say, if you like little children, to be able to do things to them, and then nothing will ever happen because they're open to it. And maybe they're suggesting that one day in the future that children will be very easy to be able to be manipulated and abused in these sick psychopaths who are controlling the world. In my opinion, that's what this is all about, predominantly. Not just about the idea of transgender, but it's about messing the kids so they don't know who they are, what they are. So then they become mentally unbalanced, and then you're able to manipulate them even more. I think all of the above, like you said, it's not black and white. There may be 100 things or 1,000 things that they're trying to manipulate a child, because they don't care about you and I. They want the
No,
children. If we can
no.
change the children now and we can manipulate them, then
Yeah.
we can change the world in a decade or two.
Social media companies in recent years have tried to um, have made space for people who are openly um, interested in children. I don't know what they call themselves. Hayden would know this because he's had many an argument with them. But these are pedophiles who say that they don't act on their urges. And there are groups of these people, and they're fairly prominent now. They openly say they're pedophiles, they fancy children, but they don't break the law. They don't act on these impulses. And social media has kind of gone out of its way to make room for these people who
Yeah.
say that they're interested in children. And social media has targeted people like Hayden. On when Hayden hasn't gone on Twitter screaming abuse at these people. He doesn't do that. He's an intellectual. He will go on there and engage with them
Yeah.
and be very firm in his in how he sees them and their campaigning, but not swearing at people and abusing people. But anyway, social media companies have protected these people. And I got to thinking the other day, how long before Facebook comes out or Meta and says, look, we'll be able to create the experience for you inside the metaverse. We'll be able to the child abuser will be able to exist in the metaverse where he will be able to indulge in these fantasies, but not with a real child, but with an avatar or a simulation. These sorts of perverse abominable things. And from what I understand, children who are using meta at the moment, it's a wide open, it's like the Wild West at the moment. If you've got a 12, 13-year-old kid and they're using meta, they are pretty likely to encounter adults talking about sex with children. And this has been reported by the Telegraph and by the Guardian, two allegedly polar opposite newspapers. But yeah, this is I agree with you. The minds of children, because look, we're probably have I time to read that? Just been dropped a little comment there by
Go for it.
Alfredo Tremendo.
Go for it.
Yeah, because I was waffling on anyway. She asks, are we repeating in the era what the civilization of Atlantis did, creating our own destruction due to greed, etc.? That's if we believe in the existence of Atlantis, and the jury's out for me. I don't know, but
Well,
I'm interested.
It's an interesting subject. I'd looked into it about 20 years ago, and my conclusion to all of that is that there are so many black and white areas and grey areas to this, that I do believe that without a doubt we come from an existence, a place that we've been and we've lived. I do believe in the fact that we keep coming back if we want to, and we've experienced different eras of generations. And I do believe that, you know, if you like, I picked a crystal up for the first time and I felt it and I understood it, and people laughed at me. People were laughing at me. And then I met this woman who says, it's probably because you lived in Atlantis and you worked with crystals as we did. And I'm like, what's that? And I looked into it and thought, yeah. And they say that back in the days, there were high priests. There were people who just were like you and I, walking around normal in the sense of, you know, love, understanding, communication in different ways, which is telepathy. We were using our different parts of the brain, communication. We were filled with love, but then again, like anything else, I think there's a destruction. We're destructive to a point where we want to do good, but before we know it, we end up doing bad. How many times do we think we're doing good and realize, oh my God, I didn't realize I got myself into this place where this happened and that happened. So I think we're a destructive race in the end, by way of thinking that we're doing right or we're doing good. And that's something that I believe there's a lot of things that I've seen that has led me to believe that we've been coming and going for a long time, and we've killed ourselves because of greed and fear, and we want to keep, you know, we have wars, we kill each other. And I mean, I don't know if you know, there's a place called Easter Island. Have you heard of it?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, Easter Island.
Yeah. So they say that there was a community there, which is a great example, and the community ended up, whether they left the island or not, but the island just, it lost all its resources because of greed and because of power. They wanted to be bigger than these and so on. So I think there's something in humanity where there's a flaw in humanity, that we've lost our way. We own nothing. We only borrow it for the time we're here. No, it's mine and you're not having it. This is my tree. No, it's not your tree, mate. Yes, it is, because it's on my land and I'll fight you for it. You know what I mean? It's like we've lost our way. Where's the love gone? Where's the kindness gone? And it's like, what's that word again? Charity begins at home. Why? Why can't charity begin with everybody? Why does it have to begin at home? And it's like we've been given words and phrases to brainwash, you know. And there was a Disney film with Joel, whatever she's called, and the queen of this castle started telling everybody that this woman with wings was evil and she did bad, when in actual fact she didn't. She actually did good. But the queen kept telling everybody, and the guards and the peasants, that this winged woman was evil. And she told the children and they eventually believed this story, so that the truth was killed. The truth no longer existed. Why? Because this woman, Queen, wanted to get rid of this woman. So it's almost like everything in life is manipulated for the agenda of a few. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I don't believe anything anymore. I literally don't believe. And the reason why I don't believe is because if I did, I'd be probably believing a lie. So my belief is through experience now. And everything else, like Lemuria, all that Doreen Cannon says, and I don't believe. I have to experience it. You can say what you want and good for you, but you don't make me believe that. I know what I know is right. It's like my idea of standing on top of a table, right? A round table with 30 religions around there, all having 1 hour to talk about their religion and why it's the real religion. When you've finished of that hour, you'll realize that everybody believes in what they're saying. Every one of them. So when they're all saying, come to my religion, how can I come to your religion when you all believe so much in your religion? So what's the answer? The answer is to get off the table and find your own truth. That's it.
Amen to that. Yeah. But I can't follow that. It's pretty much how I see things. I think as far as the inherent flaw in people and their desire for more and more, and the selfishness. Look, I think it does kind of. I don't know if it begins in the womb. I don't know, but it certainly happens when children go to school. I mean, I think pretty much in every Western country, children are taught the capitalist doctrine, aren't they?
Yes.
They're taught to put their faith in material things. They're taught to do what you're told, regurgitate the information we give you. If you do that, you'll get a certificate. That will enable you to get a job where you can go and work yourself to the bone, not see your family, not be there for your children. But if you do that, you'll be able to own your own house, and you'll be able to have a big car, and you'll be able to have holidays and all of that. And that's a pretty hard doctrine to penetrate, really, because it is drummed into children from the moment that they're kind of taken away. Like, your responsibility to teach them ends because they're 4 now, and now you hand them over to somebody else.
Yeah.
They have to wear a uniform in most places. It's pretty awful. They have to stand in a queue. They have to ask permission to go to the toilet, when to eat. It's almost like a prison. And then they're told every day what to think. And they're told that all of this is to make you a productive member of society and to value material things. It's a hard bloody thing to break that.
And that's a good point, because what I was trying to say earlier on is that whoever created this system and how it runs has to be a complete genius, because even if you try and penetrate it by a good teacher with good love and kindness, she'll either get kicked out instantly, or she'll have to bear the burden of the abuse of knowing that she can only do so much in there, and she doesn't really have the power to do anything really. And that's why a lot of nurses and good teachers leave, because they originally go with the intention of what they believed was to teach children.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? So
100%.
it's so challenging to change this. So I guess to leave it on this final note, the best way to change is to change yourself and to be the teacher, and that's the only thing, right? It's the only way, because to find this, to fight the system might be practically I don't know, a prison term for you, in the sense that you're going to start feeling bad, you're going to feel awful, and all you're doing is fighting. Whereas leave it alone and just do your best for your family and your friends and everybody around you. Anyway, Richie, we look forward to listening to the first show coming up, hopefully in October, roughly mid October, possibly.
Oh no, God, no, it won't be as long as that. Oh no, God,
Okay.
no.
Okay.
No, because we're the 23rd of September today.
Yeah.
They told me reliably, the Danish and Swedish gentleman that I'm dealing with, that they should be shipping to me on the 26th. So that's Monday. So if they ship to me on the 26th, probably by Wednesday or Thursday, we'll have the desk. I know that's towards the end of September. But Paul has said to me, look, it'll be a couple of days to install. So, no,
Right.
it won't, it shouldn't go beyond the first few days of October, maybe sooner. So, yeah, thanks, Mark. And
All
listen,
right,
thanks
brilliant.
for giving me the time this morning to come and have a
Oh,
chat and just to show people I'm still around. So,
yeah. And have you got, just on a final note, have you got any ideas of who, any new guests or anything like that that you're planning? Is there anybody?
yeah, I do. I'm going to keep them in reserve. I'm going to
Okay,
bring a few
cool. But
surprises. Yeah,
it's
yeah.
exciting then. It's
Oh, it
exciting.
is.
So,
Yeah, and I've spent quite a lot of mornings. I mean, I'm obviously here at home. I work from home anyway, as does the future missus, the better half. And while I've been here, I've been contacting people who I've not spoken with before, sending emails out to invite people to come on, which is something I mentioned before that I don't have the time to do a lot of. We call this the editorial. So I'm
yes,
building up editorial. I'm putting shows together for,
brilliant.
mid to late October, November to try and make
Brilliant.
it a bit easier for myself, but also exciting. People that I've not, interviewed before. Um, the old favorites will be coming back. Please, God, yourself. Of course, I expect to see you on the show chatting about these issues again. And yeah, I'm really excited about it now. I mean,
Good
look,
stuff.
I said this the last time you honored me with your time for this. I've said, look, you can see by looking at me.
Yeah.
I mean, look at me now and go and look at something I would have done five,
No,
6 months
you look
ago.
great, Richard. You look refreshed,
Yeah,
ready to
yeah.
go.
I'm absolutely gorgeous anyway. But I mean,
Yeah, you
now
are beautiful. You're even more. Nobody could have believed how much more gorgeous you look. You're right.
I'm fighting
Absolutely.
them off with a stick.
I know, me too.
No,
It's awful, isn't it? Richard, thank you so much. I wish
thank
you
you, my friend.
a lovely day, and everybody who's participated today in the conversation. Thanks for jumping on and being with us. I've been reading your messages, which are absolutely awesome, amazing, kind, caring, and very intelligent. So thanks, guys. You've been great, and we look forward to listening to the Richie Allen Radio Show shortly. Take care, everybody. Have a great day. Bye for now. Bye, guys. Bye, Richard. Thank you.